Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Kay, and I'm here today to bring you Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 134. Okay, y'all, so I know the layout's going to be a little different, but I got to charge my phone. So I got to record it like this. So let's see. Let's just run down the things that happened in the episode yesterday. Andre is still questioning the bottle. Where the bottle is coming from is really bothering him. And so it's like, is this secret really with Andre coming to a head? I know, like, it's probably been over 100 episodes since we have even questioned what was going on. And it is now coming up again that Andre does not like to be interviewed or photographed. And even with him and Danny having that little moment when they were in the bed talking, she was just trying to like soothe his fears, or what she deems as fears, or his hesitancies about, you know, being filmed and photographed or interviewed. And apparently this lady who is interviewing them or supposedly wanting to interview Danny is a big deal. But does Andre know who the person is that wants to do Danny? Had Andre and Tia had a relationship in the past? Is this where the bottle came from? Because I think in the last episode, when Pam or Danny told Pam the bottle was there, it seemed like the bottle had came from Pam, or Pam knew who had sent the bottle. But now it seems as though like maybe that's not the case. Also, we have Naomi trying to mediate in between Kat and Chelsea. We see Eva attend physical therapy. We see Eva, you know, try to facilitate an interview with Noah for the new position at the free clinic. We also see Eva meet up with Isaiah, and Eva and Isaiah are trying to get ready to go somewhere or do some type of event, and Eva is in pain. Will she have complications with her surgery? Will there be any kind of issues, you know, during her healing phases, or what was supposed to be her healing phases of her surgery? Also, we are dealing with Leslie interrupting the interview. Leslie was not supposed to be attending that meeting, but she did. We also see Nicole go to the country club. Nicole, this is after Nicole has already had a conversation with Ted, and they try to be homeboys and homegirls, you know what I'm saying, and talk about their feelings for their significant others. And, you know, Nicole is not handling everything well. So she calls Danny to try to fill her sister in on what the conversation was about. But she forgot to mention one minor detail. And that detail comes out when Leslie shows up and tries to patronize Nicole. And Nicole and Danny both get her together. Also, we see Kat have a conversation with Deanna, as well as Deanna having a conversation with Noah. We also learned that Isaiah is one of... we also learned that Deanna is one of Isaiah's advisees, and that they have a relationship at Banneker. And that, you know, he's the one who catches Deanna speaking to a photo of her father while she pulls away from Kat while they're having their discussion. What else happens in this episode? We had no Joey and Vanessa. We had no Ashley and Grayson. Oh, there also was a brief moment where Andre tried to confide in Ted about whatever it is that's bothering him, but Shanice walks in and interrupts. I screamed, Shanice, get out, during that whole scene, because I'm just like, girl, we were seconds away from knowing the tea, and you ruined it, sister. Move. You don't never got this much to say to Ted any other time. And half the time y'all talking about going on a private boat and whatnot. Girl, how you gonna go with him on a private boat after we just had to have your aunt and him have a talk and facilitate y'all having hamburgers in the office because you don't like fancy dinners because they make you feel less than? I don't know. Make it make sense to me. It don't. But nonetheless, let's chat, guys. Let's chat. Okay, so I think the things that I mainly want to chat about is this fallout between, well, this brief fallout or brief disagreement between Chelsea and Kat. Okay. I'm glad to know that Chelsea is confused, because last episode or 2 episodes ago when the whole interview with Eva happened, I said that I was confused on understanding where Kat was, right? I was confused on understanding her emotions, because Chelsea did everything that Kat requested to a T, right? Well, in this interview, Kat says, not in this interview, I'm sorry. In this discussion between Kat, Chelsea, and Naomi, Kat says that she felt like everybody was commending Eva, or from what I thought, was commending Eva for telling her story and her being brave when she didn't do anything but lay on the table. She says that she wasn't the one who would be deemed a smurderer, or, whether or not she would be deemed a bad person if she did not decide to give Eva her thing. So my next question was, it wasn't, never mind, I don't have a question, but to me, it wasn't that Kat was looking for notoriety or she was looking for kudos or anything like that, because she didn't want this moment to be made a big deal of. But at the same time, Chelsea was trying to bring awareness to organ donation. And to me, in my opinion, when the whole thing went down with Chelsea and Allison, and, Chelsea not wanting to be on social media or wanting to take a break from social media or what have you, Kat said that this would greatly, disrupt their business, or she thinks that it would be best to bring awareness to the issue, right? And Chelsea wasn't necessarily comfortable with it, but because she understood that Kat was her business partner, I feel like, without getting into the semantics, I think the overall point of both situations are, to me, similar, I feel like with Kat, I don't want to make her the villain. But to me, sometimes it's just hard to understand what it is that Kat exactly wants. And so, to me, it seemed like Kat was upset because it looked like Chelsea was being friendly with Eva. But I'm like, if she's conducting an interview, she and Eva ain't necessarily the coolest, because out of respect for you, she has kept Eva at a distance because she knew how you felt about Eva. And because of not only that, but Chelsea even said out of her mouth that, what you did to her family, she does not respect. But she does understand that Eva is trying to change. And so, even to me also with the interview, Eva, even though her and Kat, because like Eva said, Kat made it clear that, they would not be sisters, and she made it clear that there will still be bounds between the two, that, she still wasn't on that type of time. She wanted to respect Kat, and she didn't want to do anything to upset Kat. And so she even followed the guidelines of not using Kat's name, using, the alias of Renee, and, telling the story. And to be fair to Eva, it was, for her, a near-death experience. So I understood both sides. I understood what Chelsea was saying, and I understood what Kat was saying. But to me, in my opinion, Kat had the right to be mad. But logically, to me, what Chelsea said was, to me, correct. Because, before the whole situation happened, Chelsea had a conversation with Kat and was like, well, Kat, I still think that in addition to first responders, we should bring awareness to organ donation. What is the best way that we could talk about your story, or the story with you and Eva, without, making you feel uncomfortable? And these were the instructions that Kat gave Chelsea in order to make her feel comfortable. Chelsea followed the instructions to a T, and Kat was still displeased. So at this point, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. And that's the way I feel on it, because I'm just like, well, what else was Chelsea supposed to do? And I just feel like, I guess I feel like that's something that Kat had to work out internally versus taking it out on Chelsea. Because I feel like she took it out on Chelsea, and I also feel like she took it out on Samantha. I do still feel like Kat could go to Chelsea and talk to Chelsea without being judged and give 100% her honest self. But at the same time, it's just like, we're not telling Kat to move on. We're not telling Kat to not have the feelings that she has toward Eva. But with it being 1 year later, I guess people are ready to move on. And so it's looking like Kat is still the one that's still having the feelings. And I'm not telling her what to do with her feelings, but at the same time, it's just like, what's next? What's next? It's been a year. I'm not saying there's a time frame on what she should and should not get over. But what are we going to do next? Because everybody else is ready to move on. So if you're not ready to move on and everybody else seems to be moving on, then I don't know. I'm still left in the place of I don't know. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But it's just like, okay. And then it kind of confused me because I thought that we had moved past everything. I thought with the dream that she had gained an understanding. And so I thought that, she visited her. Even after the whole thing with Tomas, they had a little bonding moment. And you could see that Kat is beginning to shift toward Eva somewhat. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, something about the interview re-triggered Kat. And I'm just like, Kat, you're speaking about Eva as if, all these things didn't happen, as if like Eva is not trying to show change. So it's a little back and forth to me. That's just my opinion. Andre. We see Andre, in the back of the live a couple days ago. And so now Andre has gone back and forth with examining his bottle, examining his note, examining his box. And I'm just like, Andre, whatever it is, can you please tell Danny what's going on? Don't have her go through all this stuff and she don't know what's going on. Please don't have her catch her by surprise. Her nerves are already bad. Don't catch her by surprise about anything. Let her know and give her a chance to at least prepare herself. I think Danny does well with, preparing herself. Not to say this is right, but, when Danny was in a marriage with Bill, we often heard how Danny allowed Bill to do certain things. And that was Danny's way of preparing herself. Now, I didn't agree with none of that. But I think Danny is a person who works better with facts and don't let her find out nothing. You know what I'm saying? So if something is going on, because I feel like even with Danny and Andre, the way their relationship began was unorthodox, but they did solidify the beginning of their relationship, or when they wanted to try being in a relationship, with being straightforward and honest. I don't think this should change. I think they should both be straightforward and honest with each other. I think Danny should come forth and tell Andre about Bill, because I think the longer that Danny decides to not tell Andre what happened with Bill, the more paranoid she's going to get of Andre doing something. 2, her paranoia is going to eventually lead to whatever it is that Andre is hiding, because that's just the way it goes. And 3, I'm just like, I just don't want her to go through that whole hurt again, because it seems like in regards to relationships, her feelings about relationship are starting to heal. She's not starting to feel like, everything we saw in the beginning. That's all I can really say to best explain that. Like, and I feel like with Andre, this situation with Andre and Danny being in a relationship, I feel like Andre is starting to feel more comfortable with himself. He's starting to feel more comfortable with being around people. He's starting to feel more comfortable with having intimate relationships with people and getting close to people again. And I don't want him finding out about Bill be the reason to run away, or for him to distrust, or for him to have this whole grieving experience that he had with his parents. Also, I do feel like something slightly with this bottle, or maybe partially with whatever is going on or whatever happened to his parents, is related to whatever the situation is with him being in Paris in this bottle. I don't know. And maybe that's just me taking a wild, like a long jump. But I just feel like, what else could it be? Or what kind of secret life? Do Andre have kids? Do he got a wife somewhere in Paris? Do he got a stalker? Like, what is it that he is running away from? While we're talking about Andre, whatever it is that's bothering Andre, I do like the fact that we get to see many moments on screen between Andre and Ted, and them having this nephew-uncle, father-son dynamic. I do like that Ted is Andre's safe space, and Ted can confide in Andre, and I think Andre can confide in Ted. It's like friends, not brothers, because they're not brothers, but you know, I like the way that Ted has stepped into Andre's life, and I like the way that if Andre feels like he doesn't go to anybody, or if he even feels like he can't talk to Danny about it, he can go and talk to Ted about it. Now, I ain't gonna say the advice be sound, but at least he has somebody to bounce it off of. And this is why I was so mad when Shanice walked in his office. I'm just like, okay, Shanice, if you can see that he's in there talking to him and the door is closed, and you open it and then you look up from your iPad and see that Andre is in the office, leave. You're supposed to, oh, I hope I'm not interrupting. Obviously, if you have to say, I hope I'm not interrupting, that means that you may have caused an interruption. I don't know, you know? And so I'm just like, dag nabbit, we was just about to find out what the story was, and here goes Shanice. You couldn't have had better timing, sister. And then, of course, they tell Andre that they've told each other they love each other. And, you know, I feel like this whole thing with Shanice and Ted telling each other they love each other is just going to end up terrible. I just can see, I just feel it. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take another 100 episodes. But I don't know. But I just feel like this ain't going to end well. I just feel like this ain't going to end well. And in the beginning, like I said many reviews ago, I was here for Ted, you know, trying to move on from Nicole, because there felt like a moment where Ted was not going to give up on Nicole, and he was going to, you know, be by himself for a while until Nicole figured herself out. But now that he's moved on and moved forward, it's just like, ugh. And then, you know, moving on, but still talking about Ted, when Nicole calls Danny and tells Danny, hey, Sissy, I need you to get down to the country club real fast. I got to talk to you about something. What Ted said to Nicole, striking her and making her kind of have an inward spiral, is hilarious to me, because I feel like for so long, Nicole has been denying her feelings for Ted, her feelings around the separation and the divorce. And now I feel like they're coming back to bite her. She's struggling in her relationship with Kyle and she's feeling, I guess, slightly pressured because now, and I think she feels a way because she's found out that Ted loves Shanice, and now she feels like, you know, well, she probably thought that Ted wouldn't love no other lady but her. And now to find out that Ted loves Shanice, she's grappling with it because she feels like that probably was supposed to be her, which it was because they were married. And then, you know, now that they're at that stage, Kyle knows it's the fact that he called her bluff on her not really being with Carlton like that, even though she says that, you know, Carlton is one of her men and Kyle is one of her men. But girl, you seeming to be giving Kyle all your attention, and he called you out on that. And then, you know, it's the fact that he was able to still see through her, regardless of them not being around each other, and reading her and telling her about herself. And so that terrified her. That terrified her. And so now we had to deal with her feelings, and she's trying to talk them out with Danny. And so Danny was like, well, what's the issue? You know, did you have another fantasy? No. Well, what's wrong? Well, you know, Ted told me that he's, you know, noticed we tried to be friends and we had a real honest talk about how we felt about each other's significant others. And Ted told me that I don't give Carlton a time of day like that, and that I have looked like I subconsciously chosen Kyle, and how me and Kyle are moving. And so Danny interjects and says, well, girl, we ain't seen Carlton like that, but Kyle, we've seen a lot of. You even brought Kyle to family functions. So, girl, I just knew that, you know, Kyle was the one that you chose. But then here she goes, like, well, I don't want it to look like that because I still don't want anything exclusive. I still want to have time to sort my feelings out, and I still want to have time to explore and do. Nicole, you trying to convince everybody but yourself, girl. We know you want Ted back. So my question is, how many more episodes we got to wait before Ted and Nicole have a backseat moment like Kelly did with Jason Pitts in the game when they had their one backseat moment? They eventually did go back to each other and try again. So when is that going to happen? Because it's seeming as though unless the plot significantly changes, it seems like there's still something between Ted and Nicole. And we have not gotten to see Ted and Nicole, you know, try to sort everything out. And there was one moment of weakness where we thought we was going to get something with Ted and Nicole many moons ago, but Leslie pulled she pulled the fire alarm at the hotel, and the things started going off. So we never got to see what was that going to come about of. But speaking of Leslie, girl, Leslie, you know, sashays her hips into this country club, child, thinking that she was about to read Nicole and Danny down. First of all, I love the fact that Danny is the ratchet sister. I love the fact that she is very sedity, but will, you know, let you know right now, hey, keep talking slick. It's going to be me and you. Danny said, and don't come over here disrespecting my sister in front of me. Because my sister may not say something, but I'm going to say something. So let me just set the record straight, Miss Mamas. You will not be talking slick to my sister, or it will be me and you. She said, I ain't never been afraid to cut nobody before. Don't be the first one. Oh, anywho's. So then Nicole, you know, Leslie comes to Nicole and tells her all about Noah coming to get an interview and how she hired him at the clinic and how she found out that he's Kyle's son and how, you know, what she say Nicole got now, how she has a stable of men. Told that to Noah, by the way. Noah was just like, oh, are you and Nicole friends? Anyway, how Nicole has this stable of men, right? Leslie, girl, please. Nicole says, Leslie, the only reason why you come over here is because you're obsessed with me. I said, ooh, girl, read her fulfilled sister. She is obsessed with you. She is. She wanted to be you. That's why she cosplayed and put a wig on trying to be your client. That's why she did everything to try to get to know you and still trying to wreck you and come between you and your family. Leslie, I thought you was changed. You sitting across from the woman who daughter gave your daughter life, and you still coming over there trying to tug her wig. Girl, if you don't go sit down. Then Nicole says, girl, Ted don't want you. Ted is in love with Shanice. She said Ted is with Shanice now. And then Leslie was like, we all know that Shanice is a placeholder. I was like, to you? Then Nicole says, Ted and Shanice are serious. Ted told Shanice that he loves her, and she told him back. Leslie, Danny was like, girl, in her mind, she was like, girl, you told me all that stuff about Ted. You failed to mention to tell me that they exchanged I love yous. That's huge. And so now Danny realizes that the reason why Nicole came to her and her finding out that Ted told Shanice he loved her changes the motive of the conversation, because now Danny needs to ask Nicole follow-up questions. Why did you fail to tell me that Ted and Shanice told me I love you, or told whatever? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. After you know that, and then you found out, and now y'all done had a conversation. Get it, Danny. Ask her the questions that need to be asked. Because Nicole got a lot going on, and she got a lot that she need to come to terms with, and she got a lot that she need to figure out. But yeah, so back to Leslie. Leslie is like flabbergasted. Yeah, girl, what's up? But it's just the fact that she had to find it out from Nicole. Leslie is about to do the most now. She either about to go and do something to Shanice or try, but Shanice don't play that. And then, or she gonna go and say something to Ted. But speaking of Leslie, while we continue on Leslie, as we know, Leslie and Eva was facilitating an interview, right? For not Isaiah, for Noah. She was facilitating an interview for Noah because Noah's deal with Kyle was that he needed an interview for the job so that he can get the money, because he asked his dad for money. And while Noah is yet a struggling musician, he's in this interview with his business major degree, having no business experience at all. And so Eva is asking all these questions. Now, Leslie enters the interview space, rightfully so, because, Leslie, the only reason why I let Leslie slide with this interview or coming into the interview was because with the plasma ring going on, Leslie is already trying to establish herself in Fairmont Crest as an elite, right? Even though we already know the backstory to all of that. She's trying to establish herself and create a name for herself in this community that she wants respect from so bad, and the people still pay her dust. But nonetheless, she wants to establish this name and this image for herself. And so she has this free clinic, and it gets involved in the plasma ring. And so now, with the whole her doing Leah thing and, the whole thing with Derek was hired by Eva. But obviously, even though Derek and Leslie didn't get along, Derek was a great asset to the clinic, right? So they have yet to replace Derek. And then Eva is coming off of medical leave, or she's been out on medical leave from helping her father at his clinic and from helping her mother at her clinic. So Eva's trying to conduct this interview. And to me, in my opinion, it doesn't seem that Eva was convinced about Noah. Noah didn't have any experience. None of the sort. They said that Derek didn't have any experience with the clinic either, and that may be true, but Derek was a first responder. So he was familiar with, the ins and outs of the hospitals, because they had to transport people there, or people were transported there. Even his situation with his own experiences in the hospital, as well as, working closely with other first responders and doctors in the area. So I feel like him learning how to run the clinic was just learning the administrative side of what he was already doing. But Noah, on the other hand, he just needed a job. And he was just like, I just need a job, and I'm just trying to finance my dream, because my dream is currently not financing me. So until my dream finances me, I need to finance my dream, and I need a job. And my daddy told me that I need to apply for this job. And so, because Leslie ends up finding out that Noah is Kyle's son, Leslie thought that, I don't know if it would be a dig to Nicole or a dig to Kyle or, anything, with her, coming about. She thought it would be a good idea. Well, her trying to be messy, she says, oh, well, Derek didn't have no experience, and, this could be a good asset for you. This could be a good way for you to train. This could be a good way for you to learn. She gives him the job. Eva does not look happy. Eva looks frustrated. So she says, well, I guess we give him a shot, and she rolled with it. Speaking of Eva, we know that Eva was at the hospital having physical therapy with Shanice, and she said she was going hard and they were working on her core. And so it didn't dawn on me that, if she was to have a major surgery like in her abdominal region, that she would have to work on her core. So I was just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But Eva was complaining of pain. And anytime a person complains of pain instead of soreness, I think that is a cause of caution. You know what I mean? So then Eva gets back home and Isaiah is there, and her and Isaiah are supposed to be going somewhere, I guess, and she needs to get dressed. But when Isaiah tries to hug her or touch her, she jerks back in pain, and she grabs her side where, I guess her surgery was at. And so then Isaiah, who runs a very strict program, my man don't play. He runs a very strict program. He notices that Eva is tensing up. And she's like, oh, I'm okay. And so then she was like, I'm just going to go back here and get dressed. And then he looks at her in concern. So to me, that's not good, because that to me signifies that there may be some upcoming complications after Eva's surgery. And Eva may be having to go back to the hospital. Also, speaking of Isaiah goes to Orphan Jeans to pick up an order. And while he is there, Kat is there having a conversation with Deanna. Deanna and Kat have now, I guess, become close. And Deanna told Kat she looked up to her, or she idolizes her, but she's her muse. And they speak about how, Kat has been talking to Deanna about her grief and, how she should handle things with her mom and giving her advice and everything. And so Deanna lets her know that she followed her advice, that she invited Joey and Vanessa out to dinner, and she did everything that Kat should do. But Kat is skeptical of Deanna because, y'all, Deanna is Deanna is a little off. Sometimes I do feel like, if a person loses somebody close to them, they be like, hey, such and such, I wish you were here right now. They do that. But she constantly talks, and to the point where she's having she's seeing her daddy. You know what I mean? And so they making Deanna look dark and sinister. They making her, the outfit that she had on sitting at the table with Kat, it looked very emo, very sophisticated, but emo, gothic, if you will. And so Kat was just trying to figure out, what it is or whatever like that. And so in walks Isaiah into the diner, and Isaiah acknowledges, Kat. He asks Kat how she's doing. And then Deanna says, hi, Mr. Hawthorne. And he was like, Mr. Hawthorne, the only people who calls me that is my students. He turns around and says Deanna. It didn't dawn on me until after Deanna said it that she actually does go to Banneker. I'm like, duh. That's how you would know her. What a small world. Anyway, so she makes it known that she's had a few, advisor sessions with Isaiah, and that Isaiah has told her, how she should move forward with her relationship with Vanessa, and told her that even working with Vanessa would be a good idea. So Deanna goes off to the corner and says, I have to take a call. And she puts the earphone in. So I'm thinking, she's going to talk to her mom. No, she takes her phone out and looks at a photo of her father and says, Daddy, I just came over here to talk to you for a second because I almost blew everything. And I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm so sorry. Isaiah then overhears the whole situation, asks her, is she okay? And so I feel like that's going to be a whole nother can of worms. Then After she tells him that she's fine, he says, well, you know, you can talk to me about whatever you want to talk to me about, whatever. Isaiah knows something wrong. I think he's going to follow up and have a conversation with Deanna. But Kat then tells Deanna she has to leave, of course, because she's now going to uptown to be with Naomi and Chelsea. And then that's when Noah comes in. As we know, Deanna had to pay for Noah's food the other day because Noah didn't have no money. And so now Noah and Deanna have a talk about their parents, what happened between their parents. And, you know, Noah ends up expressing interest in Deanna, which I'm just like, here we go. Because this is what I saw coming the other day when she first paid for his food. But I'm just like, and he gives her $25. Because that's the money, you know, of course, some of the money that Kyle gave him. So it was just like, here we go. Here we go. But yeah, y'all, I think that's all for my review on Beyond the Gates for episode 134. Please let me know your comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out my Beyond the Gates playlist if you missed one of my reviews for one of my episodes. Not for one of my episodes, but for one of the episodes. Catch up. Let's chat down in the comments. Be back soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Deuces.